We are witnessing something pretty extraordinary right now. It's the systematic, strategic disassembly of Russia's entire war machine.
Right. And the key thing to grasp is that this isn't happening on the front lines.
Exactly. This is deep inside Russia itself.
Deep inside, they're targeting the high-tech heart of its military-industrial complex, piece by crucial piece.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really in-depth look at the strategic effect of these long-range strikes, some of them hitting facilities hundreds and hundreds of kilometers from the front. Our mission here is to synthesize the intelligence for you and show you just how these targeted attacks on three key areas are reshaping the future of this conflict.
And those areas are high-tech production,
The brains of the operation.
critical explosives manufacturing,
The muscle.
and the essential logistical supply lines, the veins. The scope of this campaign is, it's undeniable, and the numbers are just startling.
What are we talking about, really?
Well, Ukrainian Defense Intelligence estimates that Russia's losses from just these deep strikes, they account for a staggering 27 to 30%.
Wait, 27 to 30% of the entire war's overall cost?
Of the entire war's cost in percentage ratio, yes.
Yeah.
It's the largest single achieved result of the whole conflict.
Wow.
And when you look at a map, the distances are shocking. The furthest target we've seen, the Sverdlov State Enterprise, is nearly 800 kilometers from the fighting. So this isn't harassment?
No, this is strategic disassembly.
Hmm.
The audacity is hard to wrap your head around. We're going to unpack how these hits on key microchip plants and, Russia's sole high explosives producer are changing their combat capability, and crucially, how it raises the domestic cost of the war for the Kremlin. This is why this matters to you. Understanding this is the key to understanding how Russia will be able to fight tomorrow, not just today. Okay, let's unpack this. We'll start with what some are calling Operation Spiderweb, this coordinated campaign hitting the brains of the Russian military. It's high-tech production.
Exactly. And the stated goal here is to force Russia's defense industry away from sophisticated, precision-guided weapons.
And push them toward what? Cruder, lower-tech alternatives.
That's the idea. They're trying to impose a kind of technological ceiling.
And before the physical strikes, we have to talk about the digital front. The intelligence component here is absolutely critical.
It really is.
Ukrainian military intelligence carried out this massive cyber attack on the Tupolev Design Bureau.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Tupolev designs every single one of Russia's strategic bombers, their highest value planes.
Every single one.
That breach gave them, it was an absolute treasure trove of data. We're talking gigabytes of sensitive information.
Like what, specifically?
Internal correspondence, complete personnel files on engineers and pilots, and full design schematics. It gives them this comprehensive insight into Russia's strategic aviation fleet for years to come.
And the consequences are already real, right? Not just digital.
Oh, very real. We have confirmation that 25 strategic aircraft have been damaged or destroyed as part of the overall campaign.
25? That's a huge number of strategic assets to lose. And sources are saying Russia's trying to hide it, shuffling planes around from other airfields.
Which just tells you how badly it hurts. But the real long-term problem for them, it's the microchips.
Right. This is where you see the brains of the operation literally being removed.
Precisely. This coordinated destruction of key electronics plants limits Russia's ability to produce their most advanced weaponry missiles, guidance systems, radars. Take the Strela microelectronics plant.
That one produced chips for their Tor air defense systems.
It did. Satellite imagery confirmed it was. Well, it was nearly entirely destroyed.
Entirely destroyed, so no operational production capacity left? None.
None. It has to be rebuilt from the ground up.
And that raises the question of redundancy. Does Russia have backups for this kind of critical manufacturing? Hitting Strela seems like it created a massive, almost permanent gap.
The evidence suggests they don't have that robust redundancy. That's why this is so effective. And this disruption just cascades. We also saw the hit on the Volkov semiconductor plant.
Which makes components for
their highest value assets. Sukhoi fighter jets, Iskander ballistic missiles, even the Kinzhal hypersonic missiles.
So if you can't produce these complex guided components, the little processors that make a missile precise, you severely limit your ability to wage a modern, high-tech war.
Exactly. You're forced to rely on older, dumber, less accurate systems.
And that ultimately makes your attacks less lethal and your own troops more vulnerable.
That's the strategic impact in a nutshell.
Okay, so if you can't guide your missiles, the next logical step is to go after the sheer volume of stuff you're throwing. Let's move from the brains to the muscle in segment 2, crippling the ammunition supply chain.
And the goal here, to be clear, is to create what sources call prolonged and devastating shortages.
And this brings us back to that incredible 800-kilometer strike.
The Sverdlov State Enterprise, yes. The reason for that specific site is that it is the sole producer of the high explosives hexogen and oxygen in all of Russia.
The sole producer. You really can't overstate what a single point of failure that is.
You really can't. These compounds, think of them as the core ingredient for the warheads on almost every modern Russian weapon.
So artillery shells, metals.
Artillery shells, ballistic missiles, anti-tank guided missiles, and especially the massive FAB glide bombs that they rely on to just obliterate fortified positions.
So hitting the source of the explosives hits the entire production chain at once.
Immediately.
And they coupled that strike with another one, didn't they? They also hit the Basalt military-industrial complex near Moscow.
Which specializes in producing those very same FAB glide bombs. It's a double hit.
That's a huge disruption to their frontline assault tactics then.
A massive effect is expected. Their whole offensive strategy right now depends on those bombs clearing the way for infantry. If you can't make the explosives, you can't make the bombs.
And it goes even further down the supply chain. We saw hits on the Murom instrumentation plant.
670 kilometers away. It makes the ignition systems and primers.
And the Azot chemical plant for rocket fuel components. It's a really comprehensive systemic attack.
And we know it's working because of how Russia's reacting. They're being forced into this major high-cost adaptation.
What's that?
They're trying to set up a whole new production line for hexogen deep in Siberia at the Baysk-Oleum plant.
Just think about the cost and the logistical nightmare of moving an industry like that thousands of kilometers just to protect it.
It shows you the immense pressure these deep strikes are putting on the Kremlin.
That diversion of resources is key. So now, let's talk about cutting the supply lines, the fuel and veins of the war machine. Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is where it connects directly back to the Russian home front.
Right. The strikes on the oil refining sector are seen as highly effective. That's where that huge 27 to 30% figure really comes from. This isn't just about military fuel.
No, it's about hitting the financial artery of the whole war effort.
And the domestic economy that underpins it.
The scale is just staggering. Drone strikes have hit more than half of Russia's 38 major refineries. More than once.
We're talking about facilities as far away as Tumen in Siberia. And look at the Saratov refinery, nearly 600 kilometers from the front.
It's been hit 4 times this fall alone.
Just keep hitting the same vulnerable spots until that capacity is gone for good.
And this creates a really critical choice for Moscow, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The strikes are directly raising the cost of war for the average Russian. We've seen petrol prices go up over 10%.
And reports of actual shortages in places like Crimea.
So the Kremlin is forced to spend a fortune on subsidies and stabilization efforts just to keep the public from getting angry.
So they're stuck in a zero-sum game. Do we prioritize fuel for the army, or do we prioritize keeping gas prices stable at home so the population stays content?
And it's very hard to do both when your refining capacity is being systematically degraded. At the same time, they're strangling military movements by cutting the logistical veins.
Like at the Kamenolomno railway hub in the Rostov region. That's a major junction for military supplies.
A strike there caused a complete halt in all train traffic. It stopped passenger trains, but more importantly, it stopped military convoys moving equipment to the front.
And even more directly, an explosion blocked cargo traffic on the Trans-Siberian Railway.
And that's not just for domestic stuff. That's a key artery used to bring in weapons from places like North Korea. By hitting the rails, they're severing the lifeline for foreign munitions.
So what does this all mean? If we connect all these dots, the bigger picture becomes clear. This isn't just about targeting the existing parts of Russia's war machine.
No, it's about targeting the foundational ability to manufacture and supply those parts in the first place.
So while Russia is trying to scale up its defense industry, evading sanctions, militarizing its youth, these deep strikes act as a kind of technological ceiling.
A ceiling that severely limits how effective those efforts can be. It forces Moscow to commit vast resources just to repair things, to stabilize its own economy, and to rely on lower-tech solutions.
Instead of just focusing on building more weapons, they have to focus on rebuilding a microchip plant 5,000 kilometers away.
Exactly. It's a massive diversion of capital and effort.
And these strikes demonstrate a capability that, well, it affects Western policy. It creates these immediate pressure points.
There's even a suggestion in the sources that if the tempo of these attacks on the energy sector keeps up, That domestic strain could pressure the Kremlin to agree to an energy ceasefire.
A ceasefire on energy infrastructure in exchange for some other concession. That shows the real diplomatic leverage that can come from these kinds of precision strikes.
It does.
So to leave you with a final thought, the intelligence gathered from that Tupolev cyberattack gives a comprehensive inside look at Russia's strategic aviation operations, their security, their personnel. Now that this sensitive data is completely compromised, what does that intelligence advantage mean for the long-term structural security of Russia's remaining high-value military assets? That's something for you to think about as this deep dive concludes.